What's up, folks? Welcome back to On Texas Football, and welcome back to your Sunday night live stream. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis, joined by my good friend, the estimable Jerry Hamilton. We got a lot to get into on the show, so get your questions and your comments in, guys. We'll try to address as many of them as we can. You guys know how it works. Super chats always jump to the front of the line. You can interrupt the show at any time. Jerry is down in Orlando, so we'll talk about the coordinators who got a chance to speak to the media, what they had to say. We also can get into game strategy, game preparation for the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl. We can dive into that because I got my notes right here ready to go. We also talk about Quinn Ewers showing out a little bit in his second start for the Miami Dolphins. Now, Longhorn fans feel good about that. So whatever you guys want to get into, we could do it. Jerry, there's a lot. Of course, portal is obviously a big discussion topic here, and that's, I think, at the top of mind for everyone. So, of course, we can get into transfer portal discussion. As a matter of fact, Kyle Flood actually was asked about the transfer portal because there's going to be a lot of work done on the O-line, the transfer portal. He said when they're in the portal, reminds him of the NFL free agency. He said it's not like meeting them in high school and they come on an official visit. He said they're there for a weekend. It's really more like your NFL top 30 visits where you're saying, hey, I got to get this guy in the room. I got to find out, does this guy want to be coached? So he did get into it a little bit, and that's going to be Jerry. That's probably going to be a big task for him in the offseason. Is, I mean, who are the guys most compatible with the system and what they want to run here in Texas?
That's exactly right. So by the way, for the people in the chat, we're working on TexasFootball.com is down. That should be back up soon. We're working on that. Look, I think that's the big thing, and I've said this before. It's not just about going to get players. It's about, do they fit what you do? I mean, you don't want a square peg, round hole, all these guys, players in a system and a scheme. So I think that's going to be top of mind. And I think that's going to be very key. And I tell you what, I agree with what Flood said today, and it's for portal in general. Is you resume call, you meet these guys in person, you have to make instant decisions. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot different than a high school recruiting process where you get to know these kids and their families over time. You see the tape, you know the kid's a good player, he's got experience at the college level. Then you have one chance meeting with these guys to decide if it's a fit for them, if it's a fit for you. But I agree with what Kyle Flood said today. CJ and I were at the press conference. It's, you don't square peg round hole these guys. They still have to fit what you want to, what you do, and what your scheme is, Rod. If you just go get a downhill road grader, but that's not what you do, that doesn't necessarily solve a problem. Yep. That's not problem solving at a position. So finding the guys that actually fit what Steve Sarkisian, and it's Steve Sarkisian's program, what he wants to do on offense is the key.
Yep, there's no doubt. Speaking of that O-line, when Trevor Gooseby spoke to the media, he did say his decision will come after the bowl game. That's a big part of it. Are you still feeling good about that Gooseby coming back? I think you were saying you were leaning toward he's going to come back.
Yeah, I still lean that way until any kid announces. You know, we have to wait till what they say. But I do still lean that way. I mean, I think there's the piece with Gooseby is he gets to go out and have another chance to impress. You know, he gets another chance to impress against the quality. Now, Derek Moore's opted out, obviously, for Michigan. They're going to be without 3 or 4 defensive starters, not 7 like Texas, but Derek Moore opted out. But they still have a bunch of talented guys. Michigan has guys that'll be drafted. They may be young guys. They may not be there yet, but Michigan's no different than Texas. They got 20, 30 guys that'll be drafted one day off their roster, more than likely. So he's got a chance to go up and play and put another really good game after the tape against Cassius Howell and Texas A&M. But I do still lean to him coming back as of today.
Yeah. And one other nugget about Kyle Flood talking about that O-line at the media availability at the bowl game. He did say to kind of inspire some confidence in Longhorn fans. They played their 3 best games up front, he says, against the 3 best defenses they saw. Ohio State, Oklahoma, A&M.
Yeah, I mean, excluding Georgia.
I was going to say, you took it out. That was the punchline. I can't wait. I was like, hold up. Did he just act like they didn't play Georgia this year?
Yeah. Look, and they're obviously the worst game was against Florida, in my opinion. But that was, I think that was the team's worst game of the season too. By the way, I don't, in many ways, just because when you don't show up. But
yeah, I agree with you on that.
Look, I mean, Texas did. I don't know what the grades were necessarily for Ohio State, Oklahoma, and A&M, but I would assume those were their 3 highest graded games as an offensive line. So, what does that mean? I think the Ohio State game means something a lot different than the Oklahoma game and even the A&M game, because it was when they were searching for not just an offensive line combination, but what Sark wanted to do offensively with this team, right? He went from more wanting to go under center, quarterback turns his back to the defense, right? Rod, more of a pro style system.
Yep.
To then transition back closer to what they were doing the last couple. There's a lot of things that went into this, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're protecting offensive line." I'm not protecting it. I'm just having that conversation. It wasn't one thing. There was a lot of things on offense, and one of the major things was transitioning your offense, what you want to do versus what you need and have to do as the season moved along. Yeah. Because obviously at the beginning of the year, that's what Texas wanted to do, Rod.
Deep routes downfield, pro passing game. Yeah.
But as the season moved along, you had to transition that to what you need to do, what you had to do.
Yeah. Remember, he kept talking about how much he was on the center early on in the season. Like, man, he's on the center a lot. That's kind of surprising. And then you did not see that late in the season, unless it was special situations, things of that nature. Because I think ultimately Sark did evolve, and I gave him some credit for that because I think he envisioned one thing for this offense, and after he found out the limitations, mostly of the offensive line, and then still evolving and developing Arch Manning, and Arch was great toward the end of the year. I think he realized, all right, I gotta just stick with, what our assets and what are our strengths as an offense. What can we do well at this time? And then I think he really condensed the offense down to a few really good concepts that they specialized in toward the end of the year. All right, I see the super chats out there. I see the questions. We're going to get to those. Let's thank our sponsor first before we dive into it. Let's thank our friends over at Rogue Shop. We appreciate our friends at Rogue Shop, and you will as well. RogueShop.com. Use that discount code on Texas, and you'll get a very special discount from my friends over at Rogue Shop. They have it all from oils and creams to flour, gummies. They also ship nationwide, so no matter where you are in this great country of ours, our friends at Rogue Shop can get their fantastic products to your doorstep. They bring real plant medicine back to its roots. So no matter what you're dealing with, maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's aches and pains from battling Father Time, or maybe from your playing days, or maybe it's just sleep deprivation, all of those different things. Our friends over at Rogue Shop have so many great products that can help you overcome and conquer those ailments successfully. So reach out to them today at rogueshop.com. All right, don't forget that discount code on Texas. All right, let's get back to it. We can talk some Texas, Michigan here in a second, but I want to get to these super chats. Some of them will actually probably lead us to the Michigan conversation. But how about this one first from CJ Horn 15? Thank you very much, CJ Horn 15. We appreciate the super chat. Says Harlem Berry's uncle is the new Texas running back coach.
Yeah,
is he going to portal to Texas? What?
Yeah. So I mentioned that when I went to see Harlem Berry his junior season. I went down to actually, it was early senior season, I believe that. No, it was junior season when I went to see him down in New Orleans area, and he had said that Jabbar Jalouk was his uncle.
Wow.
So they are related on obviously on his dad's side. But does that mean? What does that mean? We'll see. I mean, LSU. What's interesting to me? Somebody mentioned this in the chat, Rod, is Lane Kiffin's doing an offensive line complete overhaul for his scheme. Like, is there one? People can tell me, like, I've been on the road, so I might have missed something. Is there one starting offensive lineman that says he's coming back from LSU? I think at least 3 starters are gone, maybe 4. So it looks like he's doing a complete overhaul of his offensive line at LSU to fit his scheme, and maybe they're not going to pay those guys what they're asking. A little combination of both. But as far as Harlem Berry, what does that mean? We'll see. I mean, we'll see if that means anything. And as Katie, I'm the best LSU entire OL in the portal. Yeah, Lane Kiffin's going to do an overhaul of that offensive line. But Harlem Berry, that is Jalouk is his uncle. What does that mean right now? We'll see. Nothing right now, because you know what it didn't mean? He didn't sign with Florida. He signed with LSU. So once it didn't mean anything. We'll see what happens in the future.
It's interesting, the LSU offensive line overhaul you're discussing. I wonder, could it have, if you're Texas, obviously, because you're undergoing your own, not a complete overhaul, but you're rebuilding that O-line a little bit. And you said he's doing it, Lane Kiffin, because those guys aren't compatible with his system, which makes sense. I wonder, is Lane Kiffin's system similar to Sark's system? I gotta do some research and find out. It seems on the outside, it may be. Are they looking for the same type of O lineman? That wouldn't, what I mean? That's the thing. Like, oh, that means you're might get some bidding war for the same type of guy.
That's what I'm getting. That's what'll be interesting. Is LSU's equipped to compete in the portal?
Yeah.
What's happening with LSU? They're going to have to really, truly compete for a lot of guys. Which, look, I mean, we've seen Lane Kiffin do this before at Ole Miss 2 years ago with the guys they got out of the portal. I can't. Somebody in the chat, I can't look it up while we're online here. How many starters off that offensive and defensive team they got from the portal in the 1 year? I mean, defensively, I think it was 6 or 7. And so it'll be interesting to see. But I think Texas and LSU are very well equipped to go compete in the portal. And Lane keeps mentioning, he mentioned it during the U of H LSU game last night. 5-6 days away from the portal opening. And so he was like, I've been on the phone with agents all day. And you're like, oh, LSU's equipped to compete. There's going to be real competition out there, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Does Texas have interest in Caleb Hawkins, the running back from North Texas? He'll be interesting. He's originally from Oklahoma. Does he just go back north where he's from, to Oklahoma State, Oklahoma? We'll see. He's originally from Oklahoma, not a kid from Texas.
Okay. Maybe trying to get out of Oklahoma. That would be a smart kid. All right. No, I'm just joking. DMX Colby, appreciate the super chat. Says, Jerry, do we need to keep an eye on Auburn players?
Well, Cam Coleman announced he's coming back, or that's the reports, right? Xavier Atkins, a linebacker, announced he was coming back. That's one a lot of schools were hoping was going to go in the portal. He's originally from Louisiana. He played at Summer Creek his senior year, signed with LSU, then transferred over to Auburn, had a hell of a year, all SEC year. I think a lot of people were hoping he was going to go in the portal, but he announced he was coming back. Another linebacker there, Robert Woodyard, one of their other starters, announced that he intends to enter the portal. We'll have to see there. I do think Texas wants 2 linebackers in the portal under Will Muschamp, 2. That doesn't mean they don't like a young guy like Bo Barnes, but it just means from a depth perception, they want experienced players to go with their younger talent and to go with Ty Anthony Smith. By the way, Ty Anthony Smith, Rod, super, super impressive in the press conference today, the coordinator of their press conference. I went to see him at Jasper in high school. Deep East Texas kid, right? I mean, he didn't grow up at Duncanville or North Shore with all the media attention.
Yeah.
But he was he really took questions in. He thought about his answers. Nothing was rushed. His maturity level is super impressive to me. I can't wait to see what he does with another 10 pounds of raw body armor and under Muschamp as a junior. But he's intelligent, really well thought out answers. Nice. I really like the maturity level of Ty Anthony Smith, guys. I really do.
Johnny Nansen, when he was asked about, practice and, who's bringing the most energy, who's got the most juice, Ty Anthony Smith's name came up along with Colin Simmons, of course. But he's bowl practice. So I think this is a guy that understands he is now a leader, whether you like it or not. And I think he's someone who wants to kind of, he wants to embrace that leadership role, kind of what you're talking about. Now he knows he could be the face of the linebacking core. This is a guy in bowl practice I think wants to impress the coaches. They may want to go get, linebackers in the portal. I get that. I think Ty Anthony Smith he wants to embrace that challenge too.
And one thing Johnny Nansen said today was Brad Spence will play both linebacker and play off the edge in the Cheez-It Bowl. And then he said after that, we'll have to have a discussion with Will Muschamp on how we plan to use him next year. So that leaves the uncertainty for Brad Spence, and that may be, again, why they want to go for 2 backers in the portal.
No, I agree with that too. You want the versatility because you got to keep. I don't know what Will Muschamp wants to do in terms of those sub packages, but man, it'd be a shame to get rid of things like that. NASCAR packages work well for you, and the kind of the multiplicity you've built up. and develop throughout the team, right? Whether it be on the front or on the back end, cross-training guys playing multiple positions and having those movable chess pieces. One of the things I was thinking about really about Brad Spence in this Michigan game, because I think there are certain guys like Brad Spence. I think Lance Jackson is one of these guys. I think Jelani McDonald is one of these guys that can really help you strategically and schematically in this game versus Michigan. Like I picture Michigan's coming out in heavier front. Michigan wants to run the damn ball. That's what they want.
Yes.
They want to run the ball. They want to add extra gaps in the run game. They want to play power football. They want to play bully ball. They ain't got hardball, but they still want that blueprint. And they're going to come out with some heavier sets, multi-tight end sets, and multi-back sets if they can do it. And Texas at times may be challenged to come out in 40 personnel or present a heavier front defensively, right, to stop the run. And I keep picturing them in, say they're in a nickel defense. Say they come out with essentially what looks like a 4-2-5, but then you're able to kind of shift the defensive line over, stand up a Colin Simmons on the outside. Say you got 2 D tackles. You can stand up a Colin Simmons. You can bump Lance Jackson down like you do in that NASCAR package to an interior D lineman, and essentially have a 3-4 look, because you can roll Brad Spence down. You kind of spin him down to the edge. Then you got Colin Simmons stand up edge, overhang edge defenders with 3 down linemen, including Lance Jackson kind of on that edge. And then you bring down Jelani McDonald to linebacker depth. And then you got what basically looks like a 3-4, but out of a nickel. And almost kind of, and you can present that heavier front. Or when you do go with 40 personnel, you can just go with that 3D tackle package, which I love, by the way. And they still look like they got 3D tackles at their disposal. And then you can have Lance Jackson and Colin Simmons as your overhang edges. And you can have, Brad Spence and Anthony Smith as your 2 inside linebackers there. And just present a 3-4 look to give you a heavier presentation versus a heavy multi-tight end set or a multi-back set against Michigan. I keep picturing that, but who knows how they're going to do it. But either way, I think some of those guys like Anthony Smith can be real weapons, especially against this Michigan defense.
All right. Hey, Ron, can I ask you, I want to bring this back up real quick. Anthony Smith, proud mama. You should be. I got a question. I've never asked Anthony. How much did he weigh as a freshman in high school? What would mom say about that? I want to know how much his frame has developed, because he was built more like a basketball kid early on, I think, in high school. But if Mama Smith, if you know tell us what he weighed as a freshman in high school. I'm guessing it was 170, maybe 165, 170, maybe even a little less.
I gotta say he looked like a DB because he wore the 20-something number. And last year, honestly, I would mistake him doing breakdown, mistake him for a DB all the time. I had to go back and do kind of double looks, like he's moving like a DB. And that time kind of shaped like one too out there. I think now this year he's added some more armor to that frame, and it's not looking like linebacker, but he moves so fluidly. It's such fluidity with his movement at times. He's so comfortable in space. He would look like a DB out there with the number on. So I'm with you. I understand that. I think they are trying to pack some more mass on him on that frame. And he can definitely handle the mass and still move really well. There's no doubt. All right. Thank you for the super chat. Let's get to Longhorn Frenzy. Thank you for the super chat, Longhorn Frenzy. Says, good evening, fellas. What type of role will Terry play out of the backfield? Hopefully, he will get about 10 to 15 touches. Very excited to see what he can do. Great question, Longhorn Frenzy. I can't wait to get into this topic. Jerry, what are your thoughts on it?
So my biggest thought on Michael Terry as a running back is this, Rod. His first action isn't against Sam Houston or UTEP. He's got to be super physical out of the gate. Michigan's going to be looking to dot people. And this is going to be a big physical game. This is 2 powerful brands. This is 2 powerful universities with big athletic football players. Michael Terry gets no warm-up. You've been thudding in practice for weeks, if not a couple of months now. His first time touching the football, there's going to be a Michigan guy that's probably a future draft pick hitting him. So he's got to bring it physically in this game. And I think that's a great test for him. Or we've seen James Simon, right? We know physically he wants to be a physical player on contact. He wants to throw the stiff arm. He wants to try to maximize those runs with physicality. Michael Terry doesn't get any warm-up games, man. here you go. Your first touch is against Michigan. What are you going to do with it? Well, the one thing the question I think he has to answer on the college level is at his frame, he's got to be as physical of a player as there is on the field at the running back position.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the first time he touches the ball against Michigan, that's going to be the requirement for him. Because this is not Sam Houston. This is not running to open field on your first couple of touches in the fourth quarter of a game.
Yeah, you ain't gonna outrun these guys to the end.
No. This is future NFL guys. It'll be in training camp. So, and they're going to come try to hit you. They can't wait to hit Arch Manning in this game, and they're going to try to come hit you as hard as they can too. So, we're going to see early on. That's the thing I look for with big backs. Do they match the physicality of power 4 linebackers right out of the gate? And Michael Terry, because he's played so many different positions, he's never been asked to truly do that at the high school level. He's going to be asked to do that against Michigan. And I'm very interested to see how he performs in that setting right out of the gate, because there's no warm-ups.
That's great stuff, Jerry. I totally agree with you about that. And something else about Mike, I think all these running backs, because Coach Flood did confirm all 4, Christian Clark, James Simon, Ryan Niblett, and Michael Terry will play in the Citrus Bowl. And, Sark has said it. He believes running back is the most underutilized position in the passing game, and he proved it. When he had Jaden Blue and Trey Weiser in the backfield in 24, both of those guys had at least 50 targets. That's a lot of targets for running backs. They're among the most targeted both of them were among the most targeted running backs in the country. And if you start looking at, Michael Terry, what made that running back core unique in terms of their pass game ability was getting actually vertical routes downfield with a guy like Jaden Blue. Not only the wheel route, really successful, they run that Texas route sometimes. They have him out there in the flat running routes. And I wonder if Michael Terry, because I think they tried it with Ryan Niblett and it hasn't really worked out the way they thought. They haven't been able to really develop any package around Ryan Niblett. I do wonder if Michael Terry can be one of those. Yeah. I know he's a different type of athlete than Jaden Blue, different type of twitch, but he's a guy that's got experience as a receiver. He's comfortable downfield running actual routes. And out of the backfield, he'd get a likely matchup advantage out of the backfield if you can scheme it up. That's one thing. The second thing is pass pro with all these guys, but this is just not a Michael Terry conversation. Right. This is a conversation for all these guys, Simon and Niblett and Christian Clark as well. How much do you trust him in pass pro? Because Wink Martindale is about to test it, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep, no doubt.
I'll just give you the numbers here. Michigan, and we can dive into detail later on. Among the most blitz-happy teams, their blitz rate, top 5 in the Power 4 in blitz rate. Oklahoma is another kind of blitz-happy team Texas played, but they blitz a ton. And we know in terms of blitzing, they're just trying to usually outnumber the pass protection. And if that back is responsible for that extra guy in that pressure package, or sometimes it's the quarterback that's responsible, but a lot of times it could be that running back. And if I am Wink Martindale, I'm trying to see which of these running backs is the weakness in pass pro. So I would blitz a lot, and I would do my best to scheme that pressure to get that running back in pass pro. One of my better blitzers or a pressure defenders. So I think you're going to see they blitz a lot anyway, but when you got running backs with this inexperience, why not blitz a ton to see which one of those guys can pick it up with Arch Manning? So I think that's going to be the challenge for me, or at least that I want to see these guys.
I agree.
All right, good stuff there, Longhorn friends. Appreciate that question. Up next, Colin Davis, 9531. Thank you for the super chat. Said with 2026 being Arch's final year, do you think 1 year is enough for Muschamp to effectively implement his defense and the players be good/great at it?
Let's start with this. He's got a great player in college.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like the OC for Michigan, the current OC for Michigan said a very, very special player. So you start with as good an edge prospect as there is in the country.
Yep.
You start with, then you add to that. I think the defensive front is going to be better in 26 than it was in 25. And that's not saying anything negative about 25. I just think they're going to be better. I mean, Lance Jackson, year 2. Look what he showed. Look at Alex January in year 3. Hopefully, we expect Hero Kanu back. He still hasn't announced that decision. Let's say that does happen. Murad Watson, hopefully he's healthier next year. You get those young guys, like I saw Myron Charles a couple times down here in Orlando. He is really leaned out. He looks good. Josiah Sharma over the ball. They'll add somebody. They'll add another piece in the portal over the football, right? You look at the other edge. You look at the depth of the edge because Richard Wesley coming in is he could have some Justice Terry year two, look great physically. I mean, Will Muschamp is coming into a really, really good defensive front, I think. And so he's starting with that piece and a great player, and one of the best we've seen at Texas on defense. Honestly, one of the best prospects we've seen at Texas. I think the whole key for that year one is in a lot of schools are in the same place right now. How do you build the portal around those? Do you fill the needs adequately that you need? Look, T'Anthony Smith, really good, going to be third-year linebacker. He'll be better in year three as he gets stronger and he keeps adding to that frame, right? Mm-hmm. Bo Barnes, big game for Bo Barnes coming up. He's going to get the most he's had at Texas. This is an audition for Will Muschamp for Bo Barnes.
Yeah.
But you get two experienced backers in the portal to go with that. You have Brad Spence, right, who can really rush the passer. I think he could take off under Will Muschamp. Then what happens in your secondary? In the portal, what do they do with Grayson Littleton? You think you're really solid with Cade Phillips. He looked good in the media window session CJ and I were at, by the way. He's got a chance to be really good. Safety position with Jelani coming back. I know from what I've heard through the grapevine, Muschamp thinks he could be tremendous next year. So what do you add in the portal at that secondary position? I think Will Muschamp has a chance to do some really good things in year one for sure, because I think the defensive front is going to be right up his alley, Rod. I really do. And the way he can be multiple with that front, what you were talking about earlier. I don't want to take away Tyler Atkinson coming as a freshman linebacker, a guy that Will Muschamp was very familiar with as a freshman linebacker. I think he's going to have the parts up front to do a lot of things defensively as long as they feel their needs in the portal, there's a few teams that are going to have to do that same thing.
Yeah, I agree, Jerry. Good points there. I'll just add, I think just like 2008 when he came to Texas, he's inheriting just some really, game records. He's inherited some game records on the front. And Colin Simmons is that kind of number one game record you're talking about. And I'm with you. I like Lance Jackson and Justice Terry. Those three guys I'm most excited about, period.
Yep.
On the front, because all those guys have some game-wrecking potential. Colin Simmons already proved it. Justice Terry's a guy that can play multiple shades. So can Lance Jackson. So you can move them around to find the matchup advantages on the front. And that's kind of what Will Muschamp does really well. Scheming open, not scheming open, but pretty much scheming matchup advantages for really good edge rushers and really good game wreckers that Texas has. And I'll say this too about Will Muschamp and why I think year one, you could have a really good defense year one, and you won't have kind of this acclimation period on defense. With Will Muschamp, the aggressiveness that he's talking about playing with ultimately, I think may let the players play a little bit faster.
Yeah.
Because he's talking about taking away or basically kind of cutting out some of the noise from this defense and trying to simplify things so the guys can play fast and physical and violent. That's what he wants more than anything. Like that's Muschamp football. And I think he's going to be able to tie the coverages and the technique on the back end a little bit better than PK did to the fronts and the pressure packages up front. Like that's some of that stuff. I think that's what Texas has been struggling with under PK. The belief is that Will Muschamp won't have that as a weakness. Like he actually, as a safety, he calls coverages and fronts equally as well. Like he ties them together really well. For PK, that has always been kind of a concern, even coming from Washington when he had Jimmy Lake calling the coverages and he was calling the fronts. So that's why I think you may pick up right where you left off. All right. Thank you for the super chat. Rocky Poor, thank you for the super chat. Here it says, what do you make of McDonald saying he wasn't too surprised about the PK change? Also, how was your dad's Sunday with Joe Z?
That's from the board. That's pretty funny. CJ and I went out to I took CJ to Cocoa Beach for the first time. Young nice. CJ. He's been to some place. I was like, hey, you ever been to Cocoa? He's like, no, we're going to go over there today. So he's now experienced coconuts on the beach at Cocoa Beach. I've been there a few times. I lived in Florida for 6.5 years, but still doing this nationally. You know, you go places. Cocoa High's had a ton of really talented players. So where do you go? You go to Coconuts on the beach if you're there early before practice, or after practice if you're staying in the area. So we had CJ and I had a lot of fun today over there today.
Nice.
The fun thing about anywhere you go in Florida is some people don't like, oh, there's so many old people. You know, the stories you hear, the conversations you get into with people who've experienced a lot and they're from different areas of the country. I always have a blast with it. So we had fun today for 3-4 hours out there. You know, I don't remember exactly word for word what McDonald said. I was videoing it. It's up on the site. I don't remember word for word what he said. I think Jelani, I don't want to take anything and misquote him away from what he said, Rod. I don't know if you remember word for word what he said, but that's kind of when he intimated that I wasn't too shocked.
Yeah, I mean, it may just be as simple as, and like I said, not necessarily pointing any finger at PK. Could be that they underperformed in terms of pass defense overall. I mean, they were outside the top. They were in the hundreds. You should not be in the triple digits if you're Texas in pass defense. And PK has been there a couple of times, by the way. He's been in the hundreds a couple of times, and they were, I think, 90 something one of the other years. Like you've been only inside the top 60 in pass defense 1 year.
Yeah,
out of 5 that PK's been here. You know, so I think, and not saying Jelani McDonald's looking at all that, but I think maybe just looking at they're just underperformed as a pass defense secondary, and I'm sure he would own some of that too. I mean, that's part of it. And if your coach gets let go, you got to own some of that. I had it happen to us. Even if your coach leaves for a better job and something like that, that's different. But if your coach is actually like let go, and you got to own some of that. That means, you know, you guys may have underperformed a little bit. All right. Thank you for the question, Rocky Poor. Appreciate that. Terrence here says, hey, Rod and Jerry, to me, college football has become an NIL draft league now.
Kinda.
You know, that's not crazy because, Terrence, I've talked about this before. There's an NBA offseason feel to college football now. Yep. And honestly, it's actually good for the popularity of the sport overall. Is it good for the health of the sport? I don't know, but the popularity, guys, we talk transfer portal every day. It ain't even started yet. This is like the legal tampering period the NFL has. I mean, NFL has a legal tampering period just so you can talk about all the possibilities of guys going places, and then agents can do all types of kind of weird things in that legal tampering period. But tampering basically is legal in college football. I mean, they don't say it's legal, but it's like speeding. Speeding isn't legal, but everybody speeds. You probably sped today on the roads. That's what tampering is in college football. So the transfer portal, I mean, it's a topic you can discuss every day. And when's the end of it? I mean, honestly, until spring, until your team has signed basically have exhausted all their options in the transfer portal, or have met all their needs in the portal, you can talk about it all off season until that happens.
Yeah, my big thing with the transfer portal right now is we're already starting to get to that point. All the big names that were thrown out. Hey, this guy's going to go in the portal. This guy's Cam Coleman apparently is not. I mean, so some of these guys are starting to drop. That they're staying. Xavier Atkins, linebacker, Auburn, decided to stay. So Vernell Brown, Florida stud receiver, staying. Of course, his dad played there. Will Dallas Wilson. We'll see. And by the way, if he doesn't, I'm not saying Texas is going to be involved in that one. I think a rival of Texas could be, though, if he doesn't stay. Jaden Ball, people have asked about that. Nobody knows anything new on Jaden Ball unless something happens while we're on air right now. I talked to Florida source today. Hadn't heard anything. They're still waiting on an answer. What does that mean? I think Florida's trying to get some of their pieces back around him. Well, will that matter? I don't know. I mean, Vernell Brown comes back. Amir Jackson comes back. We'll see what they get done, if they can get Dallas Wilson back or not. But some of these guys it's always the same thing every year. The big names who are expected to come out. A lot of times those guys don't come out because there's a longer negotiating period with the school they're at. Right. And they can make it. Those kids went to that school for a reason, whether there's a coaching change or not.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that coaching change ends up being a positive after they meet with the staff and have time to think about it and sit down and think about it. And so even if there may be a couple $100,000 more somewhere else, it may make sense for them to stay. So we'll see what happens there. But I do expect some big names to go in the portal, but it's never as many as you think. That's the one thing I'll always say about the portal. It's never as many as you think.
It's good stuff, Jerry. All right. Thank you, Terrence. Appreciate that. I agree, though, about the NFL draft league. I mean, it's an NIL draft league. It feels like that.
Yeah.
Michael here with a super chat says, not sure if it's true, but there's a video of Lane Kiffin leading the LSU bowl game early. If true, in my opinion, a bad look. Think this has any impact on current players on the LSU roster? I've not seen that yet, Michael. I will start looking.
I saw that. Do I think it hurts Lane Kiffin with the players on the LSU roster? I don't, and I don't think he cares. I think he's like, I'm the coach, and you know what? If you want to be here, you can be. I think that's the way Lane Kiffin is approaching this stuff, and he's also approaching it from a guy that built the team, that Ole Miss team 2 years ago, and a lot of parts of this year out of the portal. But I don't think it in today's day and age. I don't really think it's a deciding factor for any of those kids.
Yeah,
I just think that's what I think. Relationships matter. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think in this case it's a big deal. I mean, Lane Kiffin, he wasn't going to be at that game for 4 hours. Like, okay, so I'll throw it out there. Muschamp was at practice today. He's not going to be at the bowl game. Does that hurt Muschamp with the kids? I don't think it hurts him at all.
Yeah. I wonder how long is Kyle Whittingham going to be like? Because he's Kyle Whittingham's like around there too with Michigan. Is he going to be there like on the sideline for the game? He's going to be there.
It's normal. That's very rare.
So what do they do? Just go in the booth, like go up,
do their interview, do their interview, hang out a little while.
Yeah, because you don't want to distract from the team either. Like
well, that's the thing. Like, so let's say I had this discussion on our site, and I don't know if it's back up yet or not. But if Will Muschamp's on the sideline for the Cheez-It Bowl, what's going to be the focus of the TV broadcast? Will Muschamp and Arch Manning.
You damn right.
Yeah. And Michigan and Michigan's coach. Right. So it takes away from the game. Like if Kyle Whittingham was there and Will Muschamp's there, they're going to be talking about that as much as they are the players in the game outside of Arch Manning. So it's like, I think there's an element of that to it. I think Kiffin did his media appearance and moved on. And I think that happens a lot.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that. How about
Neil Brown was on the sideline last night. Didn't help. Everybody went to the portal today. So I guess it doesn't help. This whole team probably waved by to him walking off the field.
All right, Jay here with a super chat says, any chance we go after local kid Cam Cook? Yeah, that's good. Is he on the short list of possible options for Texas at running back in the portal?
Yeah, so haven't heard that name in the Texas circles yet. Okay. He's from Round Rock, Stony Point.
Sites back up, Jerry.
Sites back up. There we go.
I got it on my phone. Sites back up.
Yeah.
Boom.
Cam Cook was out of Round Rock, Stony Point, went to TCU. There you see what he did, 23-24, transferred to Jacksonville State, had a ton of broken tackles this year. We have not heard that name associated yet, but with Trey Wisner headed to the portal, we do believe Texas needs 2 backs, Rod. I mean, look, Derek Cooper coming in, very talented. Jet Walker will probably be a special teams player early in his career. We have to get through Christian Clark, James Simon, Terry, all those guys come back after the portal window. I'm not saying anybody's leaving, but there's always the unknown until the portal window closes. But I think there's a need for 2 experienced backs at Texas now with Wisner out. I'll say that.
Yep, I agree. And I know people are saying, "Oh man, Texas is going to spend a lot of money on Jaden Barr. The projections are it's going to be $1 million back potentially, or something like that." No matter how much they spend on him, and they're going to spend big money because he's one of the best backs in the country if he hits the portal, and they want to get him. I think you need an insurance policy. Everything that you get that's expensive in your life, you better get insurance on it, whether that's your house or your car or ring, whatever it is. And I think if you're going to get a back that valuable in Jaden Barr to rebuild the entire running game around, you better have an insurance policy too. Yep. And maybe that is a Derek Cooper or one of those young backs or James Simon, but you don't know that. That's not fully covered. That's liability insurance only. You want to be fully covered on this thing. Right? Yep. So, and I think that's why you want to go out and get a second back too. And potentially a guy that can help you with some of those vertical routes down the field. Like I'm not saying he's Jaden Blue, but somebody who does have some of those pass game abilities. All right. Rocky Poor here with a super chat. I think Rocky Poor said, in your mind, is there anything players can do in the bowl game that can affect how aggressive Texas is? Thinking if Terry balls out, for example. I think he's Rocky Poor. This is regarding the portal. Thank you, Rocky. I appreciate the clarification.
Look, I think, and I know everybody's going to Michael Terry, but James Simon too. I mean, look, if both those guys look really good or look very promising, then yeah, that could change. That could change the way you look at things, because you have really high hopes for Derek Cooper coming in, and I don't want to say not put Christian Clark in that equation, but Texas has seen more of him in games. Because here's the one thing, Rod, I say all the time is, I think there's two positions that are so instinctive that I know practice is important, but it's really games where I think you have to make decisions as running back and linebacker, especially inside backer, because it's such an instinctive, reactive position. It's so different in a game versus practice.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody think Emmitt Smith was the same player in practice for 15 years he was in the game?
No, not even close.
He was good, but that reactiveness, that quickness, that vision, everything changes when the lights are on and the game starts. And I think running back, so while guys can impress in practice, and I'm not saying these coaches have bad eyes. They've been doing this a long time. But Rod, everybody gets fooled by players sometimes, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then the lights come on and the game begins. It could be ball security issues. It could be, that guy locked up in pass pro. Oh, that guy forgot the rowdy runs he's supposed to run. But how about instinctively reading linebackers? The speed of the game goes up a notch in a game versus practice. It always will. So I think running back and inside linebacker are such instinctive positions. This is a long-winded answer, but I do think Michael Terry and James Simon could factor into the decisions of Texas based on the way they perform against Michigan somewhat.
Except you've listed, and I agree with you, multiple positions where Texas is likely trying to pursue starter caliber players in the portal. O-line, running back, linebacker, secondary.
Yep.
So do you believe out of those four positions, I think that's why we're trying to pursue kind of multiple caliber starter guys. Do you think like one of these youngsters could step up and ball out enough where coach goes, nah, we just need one? Is that possible?
If both do.
And which?
Both. If those guys, I think they know.
They'd have to have two young guys step up, not just one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get you. I'm with you. Okay.
But I still think from a depth perception, look at the running back injuries at Texas the last 3 years.
They've been brutal. Brutal.
I mean, it's been costly. So I think it's an all-in approach in 26. You got to cover your bases and let competition take over.
Yep, I agree with that. Good stuff there, Jerry. All right, let's thank our sponsor, Rogue Shop, one more time before we get ready to end things. We appreciate our friends at Rogue Shop, and you will as well. They're fantastic folks. They can ship their fantastic products to you no matter where you are. They ship nationwide. Use that discount code on Texas, and you'll get a very special discount from our friends over at Rogue Shop. They're bringing real plant medicine back to its roots, no matter if you're dealing with just general aches and pains from battling Father Time or your old playing days like me, or it's general anxiety or maybe sleep deprivation. Our friends at Rogue Shop have so many great items to help you overcome and conquer those ailments successfully. They also have oils and creams and flour and gummies, so much variety there and so many different products. They'll have something that is perfect for you. So check them out at rogueshop.com. Remember to use that discount code on Texas and you'll get hooked up at rogueshop.com. All right. Appreciate our friends at Rogue Shop. All right, Jerry, can I ask you one more question before we end things?
Yeah.
Do you have a big concern for Texas regarding the Texas-Michigan game, or just a factor you think is going to be key for Texas or both sides in this Cheez-It Citrus Bowl?
I think if Michigan runs the ball effectively, now Justice Haynes is out. Jordan Marshall, a really good back, still coming up. I don't think he's 100% based on the way he talked at the press conference today.
Oh.
They're going to have to get into their running back. He's really good, but they're going to have to get into their depth too. If Michigan establishes the run early against Texas, that's going to concern me because look, when we walked out, CJ and I walked out for the open media window. Jordan Johnson Rubel was the backup middle linebacker in second team. He was lined up over the ball, Rod, at 5'10", 190. He's a tough ass kid. He's a heady football player. But the backup, the second team linebackers are Bo Barnes, Jordan Johnson Rubel, and Jonathan Cunningham.
Damn.
What's your depth look like at linebacker in this game if Michigan's able to establish the run? Tynthony Smith's going to have to play the most snaps he has all season probably in a game. And then you have Brad Spence, who hasn't played off-ball linebacker very much at all this year, and he's going to have to go back to Arkansas Brad Spence in this game. So what is that going to look like if Michigan can establish the run? Can you hold up depth-wise? What are you going to have left in the second half of that game, fourth quarter of that game, to stop the run if Michigan establishes the run? That's kind of my biggest concern for Texas in this game. I think they'll hold up front. I actually think Lance Jackson will play. And I think Ethan Burke's a very good player. But I think Lance Jackson will stand up to it well. I think it's a great opportunity for him. But it's the linebacker depth is kind of my concern. And how does Michigan try to attack that?
Oh, man, that's good, Jerry. And you just gave me like a little pit in my stomach there because now I'm freaking out about that. So thanks, Jerry. It's good. It's a good breakdown. That's why I'm loving the fact that Jelani McDonald is coming back and saying, because honestly, no matter if I'm in a 40 personnel or if I'm in a nickel package, I would spin him down in linebacker depth. I'm turning Jelani McDonald. He would be my second string linebacker pretty much. I would just turn him into a linebacker at linebacker depth. I don't fear the Michigan wide receivers or their passing game. I only fear the Michigan run game. So, hey, beat me over the top. Beat me in the pass.
Yeah.
All right. If Bryce Underwood wants to beat me as a drop back passer, I'm fine.
That's 100% agree.
So I'm spinning down. Good point there, Jerry. Mine would be, before we end things, how does Arch perform versus the Blitz? This is one of the Blitz happiest teams in college football. They're also very diverse in terms of their coverage diversity and their pressure package diversity. They have a lot of different ways that they apply pressure. And how does Arch do it? Right now, I'll spare you the numbers. We'll do that later on. Arch is basically a top 20 quarterback in the Power 4 versus the Blitz. In this game, he needs to be a top 10 quarterback versus the Blitz. If he can take that leap, Texas will be fine. But they're going to be doing it one-dimensionally, because I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball on Michigan, especially with the lack of depth at running back. And this is a top 15 rushing defense, by the way, which is bringing back most of that defense to play in the bowl game, except for basically the two best edge defenders on the team, which should affect the game.
Yeah, their linebacker Rolder, he will play. Ernest Hausman, their second best backer, he kind of opted out after the Northwestern game. He didn't even play against Ohio State. He's out.
Okay.
Obviously, Jayshon Barnum, who had 4 sacks, led their team in sacks, is out.
He's out.
Derek Moore, who actually second on their team. Derek Moore had 10 sacks this year, Rod. He opted out of the bowl game. Derek Moore is a big one in Jayshon Barnum. That was 14 of their team sacks. 28 out of 28.
I think it's half their sacks. So doesn't it feel like you can just remember the first game versus Michigan, the 2024 game versus Michigan, you just attacked the edges because you were trying to stay away from the best D tackle duo in college football, and you did a magnificent job of that. In this game, you should also attack the edges the same way, but because the edges are vulnerable because they're losing 2 of their best edge defenders. So throw it out there. All right, good stuff, Jerry, as always. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes. He's the real MVP. We appreciate everything Matthew does. Nobody does it better. Happy 21st anniversary, 2001 Holiday Bowl. Thank you, CB. Oh man, Holiday Bowl. That was that was a really good secondary. I think our man CB hit me up with that secondary. Just want to throw it out there. Shout out to my man Quentin Jammer, man Nathan Vasher, and my man Ahmad Brooks. That was a nice secondary, man. That was one of the best in Texas football history. So thank you, CB. I appreciate the love. But if we missed any of your questions or comments, we apologize about that. Please direct them to Jerry Hamilton. And, of course, the one and only Bobby Burton. They'll be live for you bright and early at 8:15 tomorrow morning. So we can direct your questions to those gentlemen. And we'll also have I missed another one here. From Justin says, how many more guys do we expect to lose to the portal after the bowl game? That is a good question, Jerry. That actually is a good question. Have you done a mental kind of count of what you expect the fallout to be after the bowl game?
I look, and I don't hold me to this number, but I think we're still looking at 7, 8, 9 potential guys. I mean, you're seeing more opt-outs after bowl games, obviously. But I mean, that's kind of what we when we threw a number out early on, we're still about halfway there of what we thought it would be. So we'll see. We'll see.
Okay, how many do you expect any other starters? Like guys, so starters or regular contributors? Or guys at the bottom?
Not unless somebody goes pro.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I think that's what Longhorns are concerned about because we're getting attrition is natural, but this is the first time Longhorns have dealt with multiple starters.
Yeah.
In the portal, which I think unfortunately they're gonna have to get used to because that's I think a regular thing for power programs making those hard choices. So good stuff there. Good question as well. I apologize I missed out on that super chat. Also, we'll have remember the winning drive, the primetime edition with myself, CJ Vogel, and Coach Bob Shipley. That'll be at 7:15 tomorrow, 7:15 p.m. So you also can catch us with those questions as well. For Matthew and for Jerry, I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Until next time, hook 'em horns.